Mr. Devli, I request you to make your present.
Yeah, good morning. So, thank you, NMF, for this opportunity that you regularly give to the Indian ship owners to come and talk and spread the word. Chair, with your permission. We've been asked to talk about the concerns that Indian ship owners and fleet managers have. And while I will initially talk about the topic that I was asked to speak, I will then, if time remains, I will be happy to talk about a few issues that have been touched, including cabotage and other related matters. So, talking about what issues concern us as ship owners, of course, piracy is the first issue that concerns us. So before anything else, on behalf of all of us in the Indian fleet, the seafarers, the people who man our ships, and people like me who sit ashore and earn our livelihood from the ships, a big thank you goes out to the Indian Navy for the assistance, effort, hand-holding that you guys did for us when we had all these problems in the Red Sea and Somalia. We can't thank you enough for your effort. Having said that, truly from our heart, piracy in the other locations has increased, while, as the chair said, in the Red Sea, the piracy has been zero for the past 1 year. But we've had an increase in piracy in the Gulf of Guinea, the Callao anchorage in Peru, Singapore Straits and the Southeast Asia has been something which has been a problem for several years. In fact, I'm just reading out some figures that the IMB, which tracks all of this internationally, has said that the number of incidents against ships globally were up 10% in the first 9 months of 2023 as compared to 2022. In total, IMB received reports of 99 attacks, and this is only what has been reported as compared to 90 in the last year. We have seen cases where people board our ships, and as the chair said, we have about 20 people, sometimes 20 to 22 people on board a large vessel. While cargo efforts are going on, etc., these people get on board, they come and steal, and I frankly say, even they come and steal is one part of the story, and none of our seafarers get on their way. But we've had instances where people are now being picked up and there's hijack, and that is something that worries us immensely. In response, as an industry, all that we do is, we can depend on our Navy if it is internationally, on our Coast Guard, and the international navies if, if we are there internationally. But otherwise, one option we've had is to have these armed guards on board. Personally speaking, and as an industry, we are not very happy having armed guards because all of that comes with some paraphernalia of problems. We have been using armed guards when our vessels transit the Gulf of Aden. We also Indian vessels also carry a lot of cargo into Yemen, which is the UN cargo that, our vessels are contracted to. At last knowledge, we had 3 of our ships that were carrying UN cargo into Yemen. So hiring of armed guards is something that we do, but it worries us. What also worries us, which brings me to the next point on the issue, what worries us and related to this whole issue is this understanding our need and the consistency in policy. So let me just touch on these armed guards. We had the ability to have armed guards on our tankers when we used to traverse these waters. And all of a sudden, 3 months ago, we were told that you can't carry armed guards on your tankers. And so we went back, as usual as INSA, my job is to go back and try and find out what has changed and then try and address that. And I found nothing had changed. Maritime administrations world over were permitting their vessels to carry armed guards, but India took a view that we will not. And the only thing that had changed was the officer who sat in the chair who took a decision. And a momentous decision, just because the person who was sitting in that chair changed. No law had changed, nothing has changed, no policy has changed worldwide, but he decided it's not a good idea to have armed guards on board. We can't run a company in that manner. Therefore, what is important is consistency in policy. Dr. Trivedi was also talking about it. I can give you immense examples of how the industry is not able to grow because there is no consistency. Just today morning, if anyone of you would have seen the papers, I woke up to a news saying that the government is now considering that the tugs which are used in ports will now be on a freelance basis. We have 348 tugs owned by about 6 small ship owners. These tugs have been contracted to build in India at Cochin, etc., on the belief that they will be employed in ports. Now, all of a sudden, today morning, somebody gets up and says, oh, now it's not necessary to use those tugs. How in the world do you expect anyone to invest and take the risk of building a vessel in India? And we all know that we build a vessel at a premium in India as compared elsewhere. And after you do that, someone just gets up, somebody in the ministry gets up without even any consultation and says, sorry, you will not use these ships. Like somebody says, sorry, I will not allow armed guards on board my tankers. I don't know how we are going to work doing that. We have a cabotage, and I am relating to this policy change on cabotage also. First important issue that everybody in this room and worldwide needs to know: we do not have cabotage in India. There are people in this room who believe that there is cabotage in India, and that Indian industry gets this whole great thing about benefit from cabotage. No, we do not have cabotage in shipping. Only transportation where we have cabotage is airlines, and we have railways. Because if you want to operate an airline in India, you need a local Indian company to operate, that is cabotage. In rails, if you want to operate a railway line, you need a local Indian company to operate a railway, that is cabotage. But if you want to carry cargo on the Indian coast, not just EXIM cargo, 92% of our cargo is carried by foreign shipping, and about 40% of our coastal cargo is carried by foreign shipping. There is no cabotage in India. Let me set this record straight. The only thing that an Indian company gets is a right of first refusal, which means that if Admiral Chavan decides that he wants to move cargo from location A to location B, he floats a tender, he gets offers, he then goes for the L1, which is what our PSUs do, and then if the L1 is a foreign flag vessel, the Indian flag vessel has a right to match that rate. So why yet do we not carry the cargo? That is because operating an Indian ship in India is 19.22% costlier than an import of a service simply because of duties, taxes, and cost of money. Let me repeat that. It is easy for you to import a service into India because that import is cheaper than a locally provided service. Why is the locally provided service costlier? Because you have duties, taxes, and cost of money as compared to a foreign ship. That is the simple answer why nobody invests in Indian ships. The related reason to all of that is that access to cargo is completely available even if you're not invested in India. You can't carry passengers in India on an airline unless you are a local Indian airline. You cannot operate a port in India unless you have a local Indian company operating the port. You cannot sell cars in India unless you are a local company. Apple decided to manufacture phones in India so that they can gain free access to our market. In shipping, access to our market is available whether you are invested in India or not. And therefore, when I try and go and talk to companies and say, why don't you come and flag in India? They tell me, why would I come and flag in India? I get access to your market. I don't pay taxes. I am not required to pay any duties. Nothing at all. So why would I want to come and invest in India? So this dismal state of affairs that we have is sometimes, we ourselves feel foolish that did we make a mistake investing in India? You may have also read that one of our larger members, day before yesterday, went and formed a company in Singapore and has decided to acquire 6 vessels in Singapore. There is a huge amount of tonnage that Indian companies own outside India. Some of the large brand name companies in India own these outside India and don't want to come to India. So consistency in policy. So unless we decide In 2018, prior to 2018, we decided we'll buy container ships and we'll create a container fleet. And I myself ran a container shipping company, and we grew our container fleet by 7%. And in shipping, 7 is a large percentage of growth, mind you. It's not like the other industries where you need a larger quotient. But in 2018, somebody came into the government and decided and said, no more container shipping, all will be done by foreign ships. And thereafter, ladies and gentlemen, we have not purchased even one container ship. Not one container ship has been purchased by us. And when the COVID happened, we paid stratospheric freight rates because we had no bench strength. We didn't have the ability to carry cargo even to Dubai, let alone internationally, whether Europe, US, etc. Forget about that, we couldn't even carry cargo locally. So unless we have consistency in policy, we are not going to invest. I keep saying this, perhaps to some of you it may seem shameless, but businessmen are in the business of making money. They are in the business of generating an economy. They are in the process of generating value for their companies. And unless they see value, they are not going to invest. Okay. FTAs and JWGs. And I say this with no malice, and I must put a caveat here. These are just concerns that we have. These are concerns that we face in our daily life. And I'm being very candid. I was asked to talk about it. I was asked to speak from my heart. And that's the reason I'm putting this. So no malice with anybody, no fight. I'm supposed to do what is good for my country just as much as somebody else has to do what is good for their country. But under these FTAs and JWGs, as soon as we see, I run scared. At the recent Global Maritime Summit, I was invited for coffee with an ambassador of a particular country. And they said, why don't you just come and meet the ambassador and have coffee with him? And I went into the room, sat down and coffee with him. And in about 5 minutes, they set the sofa, and there were 6 people around me. And they came to a point. They came straight to the point that in the FTA, we had LNG vessels which we have reserved to say that we have an open policy in that, which means that in our FTAs, we may take a view, we may not take a view. So they said, why are you not taking a view? I said, I'm not interested in taking a view because I don't know, I don't have the money today, I don't have the ability today to build. So my view is I cannot take a position on LNG. And they said, no, you must take a view because our people want to do something about it. So I said, why are you worried about it? Then come into India, form a company in India, and put your LNG ships in the Indian flag. And then to that, then there was half an hour pin drop silence. Of course, it was for 1 second, but felt like an hour. And nobody had an answer. And I said, this is the problem with all these JWGs and all these FTAs. They come in all under the guise of education, and we find that at the end of the education, what happens is only a commercial benefit to the educator. There is no benefit that happens to India. Under these JWDs, they come and tell us how spare parts, etc., are manufactured in their country exceedingly well. But you ask them, why is it that you have not invested in India? Why don't you set up shop in Kandla, huge port? Why don't you set something up so that I can get my spare parts there? But nobody wants to invest here in India. But these JWGs are something that I feel extremely scared because I believe it makes us more dependent and it's all lip service. Our neighboring country with in Bangladesh, we signed an Indo-Bangladesh protocol. In that protocol, you find there are only Bangladesh ships operating and not Indian ships. And has anybody wondered why? Because the whole thing is skewed in favor of Bangladeshi ships. Ships without class have to compete with ships on class. All our vessels have to have a class. We have to have either IRS, DNV, any of these IX class. Their vessels don't need a class. Their vessels don't need STCW trained candidates. And that's why you keep having these accidents that you never hear about. But there are a huge amount of accidents that happen on those coastal trades. In return, where does their transshipment cargo from Chittagong and Mongla go? It goes to Colombo. Again, no offense to Sri Lanka. I mean, everybody must get the business. But in exchange, do I get anything back? We get nothing, as a trade. And therefore, I run a ship. I can't run a ship one way to move cargo from India into the northeast via Chittagong and bring my vessel back on ballast. No, it does not work. So I think these FTAs, etc., need better effort, better concentration. Admiral Lamba Admiral Chavan touched on this, and cybersecurity. This worries us like crazy. You know, today every technology on the ship is getting to be computer-based. On all my offshore vessels, we have a fair bit of modern offshore vessels. Everything is computer-based. The days are gone when you would have a fitter, etc., coming on board. The mechanic, the guy who comes in from these companies, carries one bag with him. He has a laptop. He opens. He starts doing something, and about half an hour he tells you this can't work, or half an hour he says this is ready, and everything is technology-based. But I wonder, as a small ship owner, and I'm not saying this on behalf of the large members that I have, because we have a set of members who are extremely large, and we have a set of members who are very, very small. What if something what happened to DP World in Australia day before yesterday happens to our systems here in India? Whom do we run to? We have no central authority that a small Indian owner can go to for the purposes of understanding how to manage a cyber attack on our ships or on our AIS systems or anything of that sort. I read day before yesterday, Mr. Saran wrote an article in the Business Standard where he has mentioned that Saudi Arabia has formed a global cyber security forum. I mean, if Saudi Arabia can think about this, and again, no offense to them, but we always thought that they were oil concentrated, they were, in that zone. They have moved forward, and they have formed a cyber security forum. And in India, I, being the representative of the Indian ship owners, have no knowledge that if tomorrow I have an attack on one of my ships, whom do I go to for assistance? I mean, of course, there are private people who could do this, but is there a governmental authority that I need to go to? Is the government thinking about this? Has anybody thought about it? The NMF has, Admiral Chavan spoke about it, and I think this is exceedingly important. There is a need for us to have some visible source that whom do I go to, where is the doctor, whom do I run to for assistance. Autonomous ships, everybody is going crazy over these autonomous ships. Personally, my belief, I'm a seafaring nation. Why would I want an autonomous ship? And second, the day I have an autonomous ship, my control is with somebody else. I'm importing that technology of those autonomous ships. I think it is dangerous. Again, I'm a small ship owner. I don't know much. This is my world. But this is my fear too. And I'm supposed to talk about my fears. The last point is the inability to stand up to these stances against the flag. There is a whole ecosystem that works about how it is not good to use Indian shipping, how Indian shipping is very costly, how we should be using only foreign ships, how foreign ships will. There is somebody from whom I know very dearly posted a thing saying, oh, now cabotage is not relaxed, so damn good. Now foreign ships will come in and we'll be able to run an efficient system. That is not the way it works. Look at what has happened to Russia. They today have been isolated, and you have this gray fleet or dark fleet, and we can't participate in that business because we don't have P&I cover. We do not have anything that will help that tomorrow, if my vessel has an accident or a mishap, I will not be able to get cover. I cannot today, because one of my members carried cargo for BPCL, we cannot buy spares. And those spares are not manufactured in India at all. We don't even have. So I think one of our fears and one important thing for us to do is to try and get our house in order so that we can stand up to these various hardening stances. And decarbonization. But since I don't have time, decarbonization is another important issue that we need to think about policies for the purpose of ensuring that our ships are competitive enough in the area where we require them to be. So thank you very much for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much, Doctor.